So our session was kind of unique. We wanted to dissect the more scale of outcomes, which we're all familiar with, um, which seems really simple and straightforward. But when you're talking about clinical practice, it's anything but. So the three main questions that we posed to the audience were, what impacts outcomes clinically? When's a logical time to expect our learners to be able to take the information from the activities that we're developing and actually apply that into practice? What does that look like clinically? And then how are we really looking at some of the complexities, particularly in oncology care, where you're talking about looking at biomarkers, tumor histology, sequencing therapy, when to initiate, when to switch, side effect management, and particularly when not everything is available. So you have the faculty's perspective, and a lot of faculty work in these very large academic institutions where they might have pathology down the hall, they have access to really all of this. So how does that impact the learner? Right? How are we taking the feedback from the learner who might not work in that same practice setting, who might not see the same type of patients, who might not have access to all of those either diagnostic approaches or the different therapies. Maybe they're limited by reimbursement. Maybe certain things are not available in their institutions, but all of that impacts the outcomes, right? So it's not this, went to the CME, took all the information back to practice, was able to apply it, patients got better, the end. We would love for that to happen, but what does that really look like? And the model is kind of complex. So there seems to be more consensus from the learners of an adaptive learning approach and really kind of looking at that model, looking also at the Kirkpatrick model. So there are multiple ways to that we need to sort of start talking about as an industry, what a clinical outcome looks like. And how are you reporting that? How do those hallway conversations get incorporated into your report? How do the questions that the learners have, the information that's bubbling up in the chat, all of that information is really important. A lot of it gets to the why behind why your percentage was low and your post was not what you expected it to be. So that's really where a lot of conversation focused today, and it was we were very blessed to have a very lively group of learners, and we don't have all the answers, and so it's nice to be able to say, okay, how is that looking? How does that look for you? What do we need to do as an industry? Where do we need to keep having this conversation go? Not just today, but how do we keep it going? And particularly, how are we engaging our learners to help us get to the why, to take us through their clinical realities, to be able to frame that along with our data. So that was really the focus of our session today.